me a co-host so I can print my.
You should be able to show your screen. There should be a share screen thing at the bottom of your screen.
Sorry. Let's see. I have to go back into.
Hey, George, welcome. And Brent, welcome.
Share screen right there. Okay. Here it is here.
Welcome, Cindy.
Hello.
Nice.
Did everybody see that?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can see it.
Is it cattywampus
No
on here? Or?
sound.
Go to
Got on
slideshows.
mute.
Well, that will be the slideshow. So can I get can I get rid of the
I've got no sound.
Yeah, go up to the top and say slideshow because you're in the
okay, I'm looking for it.
to the left.
Left a little bit.
Left.
The menu says animation, slideshow, review.
It does it?
Yeah.
I'm not seeing that.
Just below Morristown and Erie Railroad, up on the top.
Where's your mouse?
In my hand.
So move your mouse.
Okay.
All right, now go straight up with your mouse. There, slideshow.
Slideshow.
There you go.
Oh, you guys are too good for me. Did it do anything?
And then go to the left and say from beginning.
From the beginning. Okay, well, it's right there anyhow. Okay. Oh, righty. There we go. Look at that. Okay.
Nice. Okay, just give us a second here.
Sure.
Okay, it's 10:02, so we're gonna get started, and we're gonna hold off on show and tell items, depending on how much time we have at the end, or maybe we'll just save them till next month. From the board meeting this morning, I don't really have any announcements to the general public. We have anything, look up in the newsletter. I'll have the newsletter on the website in the next couple days, but you can also link to it. You can see it on our Facebook page if you didn't already get the email. So by way of introduction, I just want to introduce Frank Baker. It was kind of interesting when at the beginning of the year, actually, we went down to Arizona for a soccer tournament, and I reached out to, I'm drawing a blank.
Bruce?
Bruce. Yeah, Bruce.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, is there anyone down here where we're at that we could see a layout or two? And I got he connected me with Frank and one other guy, and we got to see a couple layouts. My daughters went with me to the other one, but they were kind of tired when I went over to Frank's house. So that made it better because I could spend more time. And he was a gracious host and an awesome layout. And I said, hey, I'd love to be able to share this with more people. And so he's agreed to give us this presentation today. So go ahead, Frank, the time's yours.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and I appreciate the time to join everybody. I mean, you know, with COVID, you can't get too many places without Zoom nowadays. Well, we cheat a little bit down here, but that's okay. The name of my railroad is Morristown Erie. The Western Division is obviously because we are in the West. It is a short line railroad that runs maybe 10 or 12 miles back east. I grew up around in the East Coast. It's basically a name only. It's freelance. I've got a little bit of everything in here. You'll see remnants of Pittsburgh. You'll see a little bit of New England in some of the structures that I have. There's over 250 structures on the layout, I believe, maybe a little bit more. I keep adding things to it. It was in Great Model Railroad here in 2019. And here's some stats on it. The layout is 18 by 33 and a half. It's all microengineering code 70. I just love the appearance of it. Control system. How many guys know what lens still is? I like it. It's simple. It does what I want. I'm not into operations or anything like that. So I'm more interested in building the visual side of the railroad, if you will. It's freelance, and there's the room is good size. I have a funny little story to tell here in a minute. I'll tell it now, anyhow. My mother lived back east and was tired of living there. She was by herself. My father had passed away years before. And I said, well, why don't you come out here, Mom? I said, I'll build you a guest house on our property. And, you'll have your own entrance and exit. You'll have your own bathroom, kitchen, the whole 9 yards. She says, fine. She comes out and some realtor got a hold of her and she moved to Sun City West. And I said, now that's terrible, Mom. I'm very upset. Not. So I now have myself a fairly significant size room that I can play. And so the railroad is a double dog bone folded over on itself. And there are areas on the railroad where the train will go in a tunnel. Excuse me. If you look in this, not the schematic, but the drawing that came out of Model Railroader magazine, at the bottom of the page, the mouse will show you a little bit right down here, about there. The train goes in a tunnel and it follows the same shape of the layout and comes out way at the other end, way up at the top. Okay, so it's in the tunnel for 15 to 20 minutes. Knock on wood, I've only had one incident in say almost 30 years of running, so that's not bad. It is a little dicey sometimes. Okay. As I said, I'm not trying to diverge a little bit here, but I made a scale model. You would figure, right? Of the building which I designed and built, and so you'll see the scale model. And I was looking at wind and light and everything else, and how it integrated into the house. And then that's the actual buildup in the upper right-hand corner. The lower left and lower right are some early stages of the railroad under construction. Okay. All right, so I have about 10 or 12 towns along the way. This is an engine I bought from Howard Zane several years ago, and a friend of mine in Florida did a beautiful job on painting it. But the names are in name only. They don't mean anything from a scenic point of view or anything else. This is in Chester right now, this picture. This is Great Notch. And Great Notch was a little town in New Jersey up on top of a hill when the only thing there was a quarry and a train station. And so I kept the name because it's kind of cute. And I don't remember whose station it was. It's been too many years by, but this is back in the corner of the layout. I mean, way back in the corner, and you sort of have to walk around things to see it, but it's there. This is the view of Chester. And there's a combination of DPM from one side of the family to South River Model Works. And those are the major stations you see. There's also 3 scratch buildings, which you'll see later. The station here, I have a book that I like. It's called Vanishing Depots. And I found that station in here. And I turned out to be a station from the D&H Railroad up in New York, and a friend of mine happened to be able to get the drawings for it. So I made him one station. I made myself one. It's fun. So you can see it's a dual main line, and where the track is down below here at the bottom, it's splitting off, and one is going goes into the dark, and the other one goes down into the town of Little Falls. So the other side of the dog bone, if you will. This is a couple of shots of Little Falls. There's again South River Model Works. There's let's see, Doug Foscali's building down here, the little one with the bird's eye in it. I changed some of the names on it, and I modify a lot of the stuff from Bob Van Gelder, but I really like his buildings. I was sorry to see him retire. This is the other side of town. You'll see that the paper mill down here in the center, there's a little holding pond, and it's sort of scummy, and then the water will flow into the clean water, trying to make it look a little different. Scratch built bridge. Now this town, I have almost all the LED lighting I'm going to put in. I've been doing that here the last couple of months. but not all the buildings, but several of the buildings all have LED lighting in them, and it really makes a difference. It's a lot of work. I mean, sometimes I'll spend a day putting 4 bulbs in. It sounds dumb, but it does. That's the case. This is the other side of Little Falls coming out of there, and on the upper right-hand corner, that's what the heck is that one? That's Ironia, I think. Yeah. And that station is the station in Thurman, West Virginia. I have a pretty good sized library here of magazine articles and drawings and so forth from the various magazines, model railroad magazines over the last years. And so I reference every once in a while and say, that would really look nice there. Well, I learned a very valuable lesson in that it's a scratch structure, and it's quite long. It really is. And one of the things that I found was that long, skinny buildings have the potential of warping, like a like a ski. And this one did. I was almost done, and I came in one morning, and that thing was off maybe 3/8 of an inch at one end of the building. And I go, oh, this is not going to be good. Well, I put a plywood base, a lot of hot glue, and some clamps, and left it on there for about 2 days. And so far, there's been no snap, crackle, or pop to prevent it from coming up. And actually, the backside, which you'll not see, I don't believe, is actually nicer because the details, a lot of railing work, just unbelievable. And it's all scratch, Another view of a little bit of Ironia and Little Falls in the picture here. All the rock molds that you see there are not plaster. They are rubber. They're bought from a guy up in New York State. The company's called Cripple Bush. We saw him in Philadelphia almost 20 years ago, and my wife's grabbing me by the arm. Come here, I gotta show you this. She's all excited, and so she's bargaining with the guy. How many can I get, and for what price? And she did a good job. So basically, you get a rock formation, you can cut it, shape it, hot glue it in, and so you could go rather quickly to put together scenery, and it's not messy. That's the important part. It's not messy at all. Okay. I've got telephone lines hanging around here and there. Okay, here's Essex Falls, and you're seeing Chester in the background, a little bit of Little Falls on the right. And this is Ironia and Essex Falls. They're about 6 foot diameter curves here, maybe a little bit more, all super elevated. The mine is from the guy up in Maine, George Barrett. Beautiful kit, terrible instructions. I started it the way he was telling me, and it drove me crazy. And so I finally said, nope, I'll start. I took the pictures and just built it that way. And I've added some other little details in it that he didn't have. So, but it's that one's a tough building. This is Essex Falls. You'll see this is a knockoff of a South River Model Works building. It was pretty simple, so I built that one. This is some Foscali stuff in the back here. An old Campbell with the cows on the slaughter rack. And this track here, the main line is right here, and it's dual main line, and it's from one end of the railroad to the other, and then it splits in Chester and goes 2 ways, as I mentioned earlier. This one is a hidden yard, lead into a area behind the steel mill, which you'll see momentarily. Again, all these are rubber rocks and some resin to make it look like it's falling water. And another shot of it. And I'm a little bit farther along. The scenery in this entire photograph is almost done. Up in the back here where the clouds are and the buildings in the background, that's not done, but it's going to get done here in the next couple of weeks once I get a few minor house projects done. Lots of this ground cover. I think I really screwed up my shoulder for putting it in, because I would come in and I'd work 6 to 8 hours a day, pinching off that little foam and putting it glued, with the tweezers, putting it in place. And, after a while, your arm really starts to hurt, and it really hasn't been my left arm's not really in great shape. This is a steel mill. The clouds in the background are modified stencils with rattle cans. The steel mill, the oven is a different version that comes in the kit. This is a carry versus a standard one. What you don't see here is where that train station is, which is, again, another George Barrett kit that's been modified. There's a trolley that goes from this point to the right, and it's a point-to-point trolley line, and it's now fully automated so that when I turn power onto the room, the layout, the train runs by itself. It'll sit in the station for a little while, and then it will take off, go to the other station, it'll stay there for a while, come back. I've just purchased from Little Sounds 2 logic boards with speakers. And what I want to do is that what will happen is before the trolley departs, it'll go cling, cling, and then the train will move out and go to the other station. When it leaves the other station, it repeats the same thing. So that's on my to-do list here coming up. Okay, that's the backdrop for the mill area. There's several sets of tracks below this. The one you see here, the dual main line, that's hidden, and below that is more hidden track. So all the panels in here have to be that go from the track in the foreground to the track in the back, have to be lift out. And I'm working on that detail as we speak so that I can lift them out. I mean, they're only maybe 2 feet long maximum, and don't carry a lot of weight on them. There's an LED strip here so that if I want to turn on the sound and the lighting, that gives you lightning. And then I've also got, the thunderstorm. This is a modified Walters kit. It's longer. The panels here are a corrugated paper that I buy from a hobby shop called G&G Hobbies in Houston. The G&G stands for Gus and Gil. Gil, you may know or remember, he's since passed, Gil Freitag. He and his brother had a hobby shop in Houston downtown, and it was right next to the architect school. So this paper is very thin, but it's corrugated. And, if you get the stuff from Walters, it's 1/8 of an inch thick, which is a foot thick for a panel. It looks terrible. So and it's long, this is longer. I think I have an inside. Yeah, we go. Here's the inside. So I've got lighting, and I've got, some people, and I've got some other things to throw in there as well. And over here, I've got a rolling mill in the background, a lot of junk in the meantime. And I'm going to have an open hearth furnace in the center section here, just behind where that tower building is. This is the area where to be built. At the north end of the railroad is 4 towns, sort of east and west twice. I know that sounds sooty, but there's 2 levels. You've got one end of the loop and the other end of the loop. So at the lower end, I have Hoboken, and I have, I can't remember the name of that town. It'll come to me. And on the upper end, I have east and west Orange. And so anybody knows anything about Pittsburgh, ever been there, a long time ago when I was in college, they were building a road and a bridge going across the Ohio River. Monongahela. And for whatever reason, they didn't have the funding or the permits or whatever to continue the bridge. So they called it the Bridge to Nowhere. This is my bridge to nowhere. It ends right there at the end of the layout, period. And then I have a highway that runs through the town. And it sort of breaks up the one end of the town from the other visually. All right, so you can see it here again some more. I run diesel and steam both. Most of it's proto, but not all. That's the other end of the trolley station here, fully detailed inside those buildings. I think I have a picture of that later on. There is a step here. This track goes around, and what that is a bypass track so that you do not put freight through the passenger station if there's something occupying those tracks. so I can go from either side and go up that side, come up the back. Lots of these. I love these bridges. Sort of reminds me of Pittsburgh again. Okay, here's the inside of that station. It's fully detailed in here. There's a guy on a microphone, and there's probably 5 or 6 people in there. It's all illuminated. My wife paints people, by the way. Years ago, right after we got married, and I got married late, I was old, not old, but it's been 40 years ago. So I was almost 40. She said, we got married, and she said, I really want to help you with the hobby. And I said, okay, fine. She goes, what can I do? And I said, well, let me think about that. So we were at a train show in California, and I said, I could really use people, painted people, because you don't find very many good ones at all. So I bought her 18 boxes of price or figures. So you can take 18 times 150 people in the box, and she's still painting. Let me put it that way. These are scratch built structures, some of them that I've done along the way. This is my first one here. This was a farm service exchange. It actually was in my hometown. This building is probably 60 years old. Somebody said, well, where did you find the lettering? And I said, at the end of my brush. I don't think I could do that anymore. And this is, I saw these 2 buildings. I saw them at a hobby shop in Florida. I took some photographs of it. I came back and I made the models. And the one guy that painted that engine for me, that's one, I made him a set as well, because he did the painting for me. And they said on the layout, I took this up to a narrow gauge convention one time to see what would happen, but HO does not do well in narrow gauge. This is the Fort Edward Station in Fort Edwards, New York. It's my Chester station. You can see all the people that my wife has painted. It's illuminated. It's a scratch built. I just enjoy scratch building. This one is just an interesting structure. The photograph on the upper left was on a forum. A friend of mine back in New Hampshire posted this on a forum that I'm on. And I called Ray. I said, Dan, I said, can you get me the size of that building, some more photographs around the building, etc. And he did. And I said, the only thing I need is what the clapboard siding is so that I can make up a drawing, which I made up a drawing for it. And so you'll see some pictures here of the front and the back and so forth. Well, the history, I also do the history of the building. I found some people up in St. Johnsbury that were able to give me some history. The building the portion of the building to the left, it was actually an add-on, as is this 2-story living quarters here. The main building is from the chimney to the right. The small building on the far left-hand side was a fire station, and the firemen lived in these quarters. And when they had a fire alarm, they had to run downstairs, run around the back of the building, get the horses and tie it up to the wagon and go out to the fire. The back of the building on the lower picture here, you'll see where the gutter had bent and it rusted. Trust me, that's exactly what it looks like. Okay. Here I do have pictures of it. This is Thurman Station. It's ironia for me, but I mean, that was the one on the C&O in Thurman, West Virginia. And I just thought it was really a beautiful building. Well, all those railings in the back, they were bare. And I had it situated up on the layout one day, and I saw something that I didn't like. I reached over and I broke one of the posts and part of the railing. And that's not fun to get to. I could tell you, the 3-foot rule should be a 2-foot rule, because this was about a 6-foot rule. I had to do a lot of climbing, and I have a topside creeper, but even then it was not easy. It's fixed, but it was not fun. Okay. And it's all scratch built. And the name of the restaurant, behind there's another little building here. It's a City Classics building, and it's called Ruby's Diner. And anybody that's been in California knows what Ruby's Diner is. It's kind of cute. This is a scratch built, I call it Duffy's Tire. It's fully detailed. If you look at the lower right-hand picture, you can barely make out that there's a sink There's a man on the toilet. There's a girly picture on the wall, newspaper on the floor, and it's illuminated. The building is totally framed off on the inside, just like you would do a regular building. All the floors are individual boards. I know that's sick. And the roof lifts off, obviously. And there's tire storage here. This is a building, again, out of this Vanishing Depot that I saw. It's a building in Illinois, and I liked it. I like the tower. And so I make up sketches on all the components, as you see there in the green, on what they would, all of the components, what they would look like, not necessarily dimensions, but how many pieces I need to make. And a funny story, I'm on a forum. I've been on a couple forums, but one of the forums I was on, one of the guys said, Frank, you have the wrong screen material. And it was truly the wrong. I mean, you could put your hand through the holes of the screen. It was really wrong. And so Ken Hamilton's his name. So Ken sent me a piece of screen, and my wife likes telling everybody about that story. This is a foundry that I built. It was originally designed and built by Wayne Wesolowski. Wayne been around forever. He was a chemistry teacher in Chicago. He also has residency in Tucson. And I actually built two of these. I built one for myself. I built one for my neighbor down the street, who was into O scale. And I said, Russ, when I retire, I'm not driving with you to Pine to play with your O scale trains, because it's a 2-hour drive. And so we're going to add on to your house, and we're going to build an HO layout. Kind of ballsy, but we did. And so when we're done, I made this structure for him, and it's on his railroad as well. There's another view of it. This view was taken, was also in the Great Model Railroads in 2019 on my railroad as well. And it was fun to build. Okay, high-end structures, and I've got a list of whatever there. Okay, so and I don't build them pretty much as you see them. I mean, as they come out of the box. For instance, the building, which you can make out just a little bit in the back on the right-hand side, says Delabar Woolens. Well, that was just a straight building with a cupola on the top. I added the right wing and added another floor. Now, the easy part was obviously the wood pieces, but the walls, the basement are cast resin. So I called Bob up, and he very nicely sent me a couple pieces. And so the back is an interesting view as well. The other side is an interesting view. This building here, in the foreground, what I call Rainbow Beverages, are 4 buildings. And the bottom of the main building is cast stone. And then the top is a wooden frame building with a clear story through it. So I made another copy of that, made it so that the building is the single story building to the left of that is the same as the top above here. And then you can see the man painting the smokestack here. He's sitting on a little skid, and he's painting the rainbow name. This is Vogue Furniture from Dario Ladonna out of Canada. I really like his work. Unfortunately, he doesn't do a lot of it. I keep talking to him, and he says, yeah, I've got a new kid coming. I got a new kid coming. That's been about 4 or 5 years. And I'm going, Dario, hurry up, buddy. The traffic light moves back there. The brake lights on the bus there, they operate. When I say operate, they're red all the time, but they are illuminated. Okay, this is more Rainbow Beverages, just collage of pieces. The photograph with the car, it's in the upper right area there. I took that one time to one of the meets, put it in the photography area, and somebody said, no, you can't do that. That's a real picture. And I said, I beg to differ, Okay, what else? Oops. Okay, so I built a lot of my scenery, or in this particular case, all those structures on a piece of foam. Allows me to look and see all the details, work around it, and make all the changes, and then I just put it in place. Hopefully I can get it out, because there will come a day, as we all know, that either you die or you downsize. And I'm hoping that it's the latter, not the former, but we'll see. So a lot of them are that way. This one here's another one of Bob Van Gelder's kits. And again, it's just, I build it right on a piece of foam. I can turn it around. I can do everything. And it's, oh, the sign illuminates. Okay. Okay. The devil's in the details. Okay. Well, let's see, I don't know where your pictures are of me, but can you move that image of all of us? Let's see, to the right, maybe not. There's a Whistle Stop Diner here, which I've recently added to that, which is completely detailed on the inside, including roof fans, roof vents, lighting. It took me all day to put 4 LEDs in that building. It was just a bear. All right. Lots of people make the signs look old and cruddy. You know, that's half the fun. A lot of my cars are from the guy up in Canada. Let's see. Sylvan, Claire's a nice guy, been very helpful in many cases. A little gas station. I don't remember who the manufacturer was, but again, lots of, the closer it is to you, the more junk you want to have there. Okay, that's that same one with the Duffy's tire. Again, the trolley station. This is a City Classic structure, and I just cobbled it up, put an awning on it. The windows are all different from what they were originally. Just in my box of stuff, and a stone foundation and wooden shingles. This is Bob Van Gelder building. Not too much changes. I have put lighting in the bar. I had not put lighting underneath by the door, but I'm going to. That's a fairly easy, accessible one. Here's the motorcycle 3-wheeler, giving a ticket to the gentleman without securing his hot water heater. You have to tell stories. That's the fun part of this, you know. A little collage. Here's couple policemen in motorcycles hiding behind the billboard. The little kid skipping, something like that's kind of unique to see, you know. These are, again, more of the cars from Claire. I called them up. I said, Claire, you happen to have a pot or bag or a whole bunch of old cars that, you know, weren't cast properly that you haven't thrown away? And he said, sure. I said, can I get about a dozen of them? So he sent them to me, and you prime them, you paint them, and you rust them, and so forth. So I have a junkyard. You can't see the sign there, but it's called Ramos because Dan Raymond is the guy who got me the building for East End Market. This is not HO scale. This is 0:30. When Lou Sassy was out here to photograph, he kept going, Frank, you make nice structures. He didn't say it once. He didn't say it twice. He said a whole lot of times. And I finally said, Lou, what do you want? You must want something if you keep saying that. He said, well, yeah, kind of I do. I said, okay, what is it? Well, Dick Elwell, who I don't know anybody who knows him, but I do. He's been in the magazines quite a bit of recent. Beautiful layout, absolutely stunning layout. Very New England style. It's in his basement of his house. In fact, his original layout was moved to that basement, and it continues. It looks gorgeous. Well, anyhow, he had this drawing of this building, and he said, could you make me this in 0:30? I said, sure, not a problem. So I actually made 2. I made one for him and one for myself, and it sits on the shelf because I figure when this is looking forward. When I'm done with my HO layout, I'm going to build an 0:30 layout. We have to dream. Okay, well, there's some plaques on the wall. This is my wife. This is my neighbor down the street. Actually, I've known him longer than I've known my wife, but I won't say much. He was a client of mine years ago. When I walked into his office, he had some trains, and I said, oh, very cool. Are you into this? And that started the friendship. He's into electrical. I'm into mechanical. So on my railroad, he did all the electrical, and on when he converted from O scale, not tin plate, O scale, we had some trips. Anybody ever been to the Amherst Train Show in Massachusetts? If you haven't, it's an experience. It's a 2-day event, and there are 4 huge buildings, and there are mom and pop selling stuff. There's a wide variety of people selling any scale you want, almost to full size. Well, the speeders, people will sell speeders there as well. So Russ was walking around, and he's a Penske guy, and I pick up a Penske E8, and it said $25. This is Broadway Limited. I said, this is crazy. And so Russ starts walking away. I said, hey, get back here. This is $25. And so I asked the guy, what's wrong with it? And he said, well, there's some sound and some mechanical issues. Well, I can't help them with sound, but maybe mechanical. Well, back then, Broadway Limited for $30 or $35, whatever it was, would allow you to send the model in, and they would bring it back to factory standards. So for a total of what, $55, he had himself a brand new, engine. He bought the other end of that the next day for a whole lot more money. I mean, he paid full, I won't say full list, but pretty close to it the next day. But friendship is what it's all about, this hobby, and so I laid all his on track. I said, Russ, no code 100, no code 83. We're going to go code 70. And after a little convincing, he agreed, and that's what we did on his as well. And I learned something. If you want to buy a lot of track, you go to the supplier and say, I want to buy, a box, however much track that goes in there. And that's what we did. We bought all of his railroad at one go. And it was significantly less, it was microengineering, and they were very accommodating. Now, I can't say that anymore. The father died, who we bought it from. The son is either selling or has sold the business. And so I can't, say that anymore. But it just was very nice and easy to work with. And then Howard Zane, I don't know how many guys know Howard Zane, but he's a character. He said, no straight lines on your railroad, no piece of track that's straight. If it looks straight, you got to bend it. Well, we have an area on Russell's where going into the station, which is very long. It's probably 18, 19 feet going into the station. He's doing 30th Street Station in Philly. And there is no straight line. We took pieces of PVC pipe and bent it to the shapes we finally wanted to get. And it really comes out nice, So, I mean, it's only 6 doors down. It even makes it easier to have to walk down there versus 2-hour drive to the mountains, So anyhow, I think that's the last of that's it. Oh, and then a couple of years ago, we held a convention here, a regional convention. And Stephen Kofel, who was the marketing guy for TCS, I didn't know he was doing this, but that's okay, did a video of my railroad. So if you go into YouTube, you can find this. And it's pretty nice. He did a real nice job. I mean, I was surprised, of what he did. The irony of it is he didn't ask me, A, did I have any TCS sound? And B, would I run it? That engine has TCS sound in it. So you go figure. But anyhow, so that's my my domain. It's been about 30 years working on it. And so far, the wife hasn't given me the downsize drill. And any questions? You guys are too quiet over there.
I've got a question. You mentioned you've been adding some LEDs. Are those to buildings that can come off the layout easily, or do you add them in place?
Well, some of the buildings, no, God, no. You can't have steady enough nerves to do it in place. I have some that I've had to do a little prying, but if it's some I cannot take off, I know that. All right. So if they're either new or they're ones that I've been able to get off, or some that I have. For a while, I was putting them on little platforms, a little piece of cardstock platforms that you didn't see. All the scenery went around it, which was a smart idea on my part, but I forgot somewhere along the way between this end to the other end and so forth to do that. And so if I can get them off, I put them in. Yes. Yeah. And if it's being added, I put them on for sure.
Yeah.
You know, you can get carried away with those too. And it's a lot of work, you know. I mean, like I said, sometimes I'll spend all day putting 4 bulbs in, but you're bending it, twisting it, and putting it around shape. So you're trying to hide it so you don't see it. You're painting it. You're checking every motion you make to make sure you haven't popped a bulb. It is no fun to be all done with the model. You put the battery on it to test it one final time, and one bulb in the middle is burned out. Trust me. I won't say the expletive, but it's there is one.
And what system are you using? Is it to light them up?
I just have a 12-volt supply that powers around, it goes around the entire layout, and I just drop some feeders to it, put a resistor on it, and that's it. Now, the supplier for bulbs, let's see, what is his name? Model Train Software. It's the guy in Colorado, I believe. Yeah, it's the guy in Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I buy, 25 or 30 at a clip. And
how, when they power on, is it just all of them are on, or do you have?
All of them are on.
Okay.
Yeah. We're no switching.
I know you showed me an animation on the layout. How much animation do you have?
Only 2 so far. There's a third one. I'll tell you that one in a minute. Is the lady in the group still on? I only see 5 people sitting on there. No, it's okay. She'll get a kick out of it. I have one in Chester, which is a photographer taking a picture of a dog in a motorcycle, 3-wheeler. And I have one over on the other side where you press the button and there's a woman beating a rug. And that's kind of cool. The third one I'm going to have that I'm getting a lot of grief on from my wife is the couple. And that she's all worried that young kids will see it. Well, I said, well, I'm going to have 2 buttons and not necessarily near each other. So the first button raises the shade and second one provides the motion. We'll get there. I still have a little selling to do.
Anyone else have questions?
Hey, Frank?
Yes, sir.
You said you do a lot of scratch building.
Yes.
Do you prefer plastic or wood, and why?
Wood. Wood is so nice. The character you get. I've done both. Trust me. I have plastic and I have wood, but you have to see these structures up close. Wood you can do so much more with. I mean, the guy that really got me into wood, this is funny to say, is Bob Van Gelder. Have you ever built a Bob Van Gelder kit? South River Model Works.
No.
Okay. He is probably the best instructions that I ever saw originally was Campbell kits. And then from Campbell's, Bob Van Gelder is the next one. Bob does a spectacular job on why he wants to do what he's suggesting to do. The nail holes, the boards that are lifted, the weathering, and so forth. Most of my in fact, all my scratch built structures are wood, and it's relaxing. It really is. Okay. And there's been some shits along the way, pardon my French. But that one building that I showed you, that house with the fire station, I dropped it. It was almost done. I dropped it from about 2 feet and I had the whole building in my hand and I was rotating it and painting it. And I said an expletive or 2. And I only had one little piece of the building that had a little bit of damage to it, which was fixed very quickly. And you couldn't tell from then on. Okay. It did make a difference. I like the character of it. You really have to see him in person. You can do so much with them. And I just think they look so much better, honestly. And you can learn an awful lot. I mean, you just don't slap paint on. I have the Yakima apples, can I go back? Can I rotate? Yes, I can. Hang on a second. Let me go back a little bit. Here, those buildings have 9 coats of paint on them.
Oh.
When I say paint, it's either India ink or it's different techniques on pigments. I use acrylic paint, but there's 9 layers of pigment on there, just on the walls. And it just, you know, when you photograph it up close, I don't know how much well you can see it from there, but I just like the character that you get. I have not been able to replicate that in plastic, and I've done plastic. Let's see. That's the one I dropped. And you see this little corner bird mouth right up here? That broke off, and I fixed it. Let's see. I have a plastic building here. Where are you? No. That one. That's plastic. And I don't get the same flavor. And the building next to it, the station, is plastic. I mean, it's not bad, but maybe I'm particular. But again, wood, that's all wood. And you get the nail holes so they pop out a little bit. You know, you take a big blade in there and you try to get it so the wood breaks out. You see it on some of the other ones. Yeah, see how up here, on the top of the front of the building, I've got boards that are peeling back, the window screen coming out, the curtain, the weathering along the bottom of the boards. I just love it. Really, I could do this all day long. My wife would kill me, but I could. You know, I've made some of these buildings for friends. I made the station in Chester for the guy that gave me the drawings for it. And then the Yakima apples for the guy in Florida that painted it for me, painted an engine for me. And the one building for my neighbor down the street. So yeah, I just like the medium. It's fun. It's easy. And I buy Elmer's yellow glue by the gallon. And sometimes they may last me 5 months or 6 months at max. Not anymore. But when I was building structures, like I said, I've got 300, about 300 structures on the layout so far, maybe a little more.
When you've mentioned that you've built multiple of the same, do you find that it goes together faster the second time, or?
No. No. You do learn certain things. On the station, I learned something. I never solved it on either mine or the other one. Let me see if I can find the station real quickly. There's a long extension wing on the station. Come on, here. See this wing here? That is cardstock, and the only way I could keep that from warping is I put this little newsstand outside of it. It wanted to become like a ski. It wanted to bend, curl up in here. And I would sit, this may sound terrible, I would put the building in my lap and bend that protuberance as much as I could without breaking it. And the next day, this damn thing was warped back up again. And I finally said, oh, this is crazy. So that's why I put that there. I don't know about anything else, but a lot of shingles, a lot of shingles. And in fact, the shingles that are on most of my buildings, they're paper shingles. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's up in the Pacific Northwest. I could look it up if anybody's interested. I saw what he was making at one of the trade shows, and I asked him if he would do it with my brand of paper. And I went over and I found a black, a tan, a gray, and a brown color, a paper. And I sent it to him and asked him to do it. I said, I want you to burn them. If it doesn't have the burn marks on it, it's not fun. And he did. If you get that laser cutting, and it will leave a burn mark, going up and around the edges. And that's what I wanted, because when you paint that with a light layer of something, it really enhances it. And of course, the front edges here, that's all copper along those front edges here as well on the station. So Well, I shouldn't say it's copper. It's aluminum, but it's painted like copper. And I mean, this building, these structures here, they take me 3 to 4 months, and I put together a book. Every one of my scratch built structures has a book. It tells the history of the building, the people that owned it. I know that's kind of weird, but when I take it in for judging, people freak out. I get a lot of horseshit from them. No, now there is another building that I'm going to make, and I'm going to make 2 of them, 2 buildings. It's a station, and it's a station that was in Whitman, Massachusetts. And then let's see if I can get this up here. Can you see that there?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to make 2. One is built and one is burnt. I'm working on the mechanical drawings for it now. Obviously, I'm also doing studies on burning wood, because you get such an interesting charring effect, and certain woods will do that, certain woods will not. And then I'm going to put a little smoke generator and little flickering lights inside the building and all that kind of crap. So it's on my list. Probably another year or 2 and I'll be done. That won't go on the layout. That's just for fun. You guys are awful quiet.
Hey, Frank, I noticed too that I don't know if I would call it unusual, but your fascia color. I mean, you see a lot of layouts with, black, or dark green.
Right.
I find that your fascia color is very interesting. Have you had a lot of comments about it?
Yeah, I do. I'm looking for the color sample. Boy, the one time I normally have it just sitting here, and it's normally tacked on the wall, and it's not tacked on the wall. Yeah, I looked at a lot of color samples. I had one of those books, you get at this paint store, and this one really just got me going. I just really liked it. I would like to put a fascia from the ceiling down, cloth, because the lights that are up there, which are LEDs, distract from the scene. Okay, and I keep saying, how am I going to do that? How am I going to do that? And do I want to do it now that the railroad is basically complete in, so many areas? I don't want to do any damage. But yeah, the color is an interesting color. I just really liked it, and it's, I haven't enough of it so that I've gone back a couple of times and touched up a couple of, dings and scratches or an addition, something like that. But it's held together pretty well. And it's masonite.
Can you bring up a photo of that?
Let's see if we.
Of the fascia?
We can certainly look.
I remember seeing one someplace in there.
Yeah, it's probably in the early ones, probably. In fact, I know that's where it is. I went the wrong way. And in some pictures, it looks more blue than green, and it is actually green.
Okay.
All right. You see over here, it looks blue, but over here it looks green. And it is a green. If you want, I'll find the color sample. Well, I'll try to, and send Jim the name and so forth. I got it at Home Depot, and they still sell the color.
Frank, I have a comment and a question.
Sure.
Is it Builders and Scale? Is the company that you use for the shingles?
He's up in yes.
It's up in Washington. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Very nice guy. Very nice. Very accommodating. And like I said, I saw him at a show years ago and asked him if he would burn me with my paper, and he said sure.
Oh.
He still charged me. It wasn't very much. I think it was like $40 for a ream of paper. I still have a bunch of it, and I give it away. What I wanted was the character of the burn. Let me think hang on a second. You guys talk to each other for a second. I'm going to go find a piece of the paper. It's in a drawer over here, and show you or try to show you what he did. because when you see it on a structure, it really looks awesome. Okay. It looks like it's been weathered without having to do any weathering yourself. Hang on 1 second.
Anyone else have any comments while he's off getting that?
Listen, Brand, I'd like to see his workbench.
Oh, yeah. He's
Yeah.
actually sitting at his workbench. I probably have a photo I can put on the Facebook page.
Okay. Can everybody see that piece of paper?
Yeah.
Can you see that up here, it's sort of no signs of burn, and down here you see the burn?
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
Jim, can you spotlight him?
Can you, unshare your screen?
Okay. How do we do that?
Wait. Is he bigger now?
Not yet.
He's bigger for me. I said pin and he's full
maybe.
screen now.
How are we looking?
Look to your left a little bit. Yeah, right there.
Okay.
I've got it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a natural phenomenon. And you can see on this sheet, he burned it real well down here, but it didn't burn up in here. So I don't use those. If I do, they're on the backside of a building you won't see, because I want the burn effect. And I'm trying to think where I used them.
What kind of paper is that? Well, you said you sent him paper.
I went over to Michael's and I found a ream of paper that had a nice thickness to it. And that was many years ago.
Yeah. I've made my own shingles on the laser at work, and there's certain spots on the laser that will burn more than others. So I know what he's doing there.
I have no idea, but I just love it, and I've showed this to a lot of people, and I give them some samples, and I'm sure they're all calling them up and saying, "Hey, can you burn me some of this stuff?"
Yeah.
And he's going, "Oh, that thing."
Yeah.
But it has nice character. Remember, there was a guy years ago that made paper shingles that were printed. I have one little Paper Creek. Remember those?
Yeah, I have some of the.
Well, I still don't know whatever happened to the guy.
There was some family health issues, and he shut the business down.
Yeah, that was too bad. They were nice, but I actually like these better. I really do. The station in Chester is built with them, and I have a couple other buildings that are made with it, and they just really have nice character to them.
While you were getting those, we had a request to see your workbench. Can you turn your screen to see it?
Sure, guys. Okay. Let's see. Can you see that? Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't it clean? Not. I actually, let me see. You can see there's an area in the. I've got actually two work surfaces. That's actually clean. I cleaned it up a little bit today, but this one here, there's crap in there. I mean, look at that debris, man. It's terrible. But hey, it is what it is. If anybody that has a clean workbench, he doesn't know how to build.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless he just went like that and said, "Okay, it's clean now." No. I got stuff in here that I probably haven't. It's always fun to clean because then you find stuff you haven't seen in years.
Yeah.
I cleaned this morning in one little area and I found a screw for the trolley that I've been looking for. Okay, I go, son of a bitch, Oh yeah, you find a lot of stuff. Trust me. And I have a bad habit. Like, I have a lot of those vehicles from Claire up in Canada, Sylvan. And that's my partial stack. I've been taking the photographs, that they put on the cars. So somebody says, what car is it? I said, well, let me look in here and I'll find out what it is, because there's too many of them. And I don't tell my wife how much they cost. So any other questions? Feel free, guys. I'm retired.
Sure. I'll ask another. Can you talk a little bit about, you're talking about building your models or your building off on a base and then putting them onto the layout itself. Can you talk a little bit about that procedure?
Yeah,
And
sure. Let's find
kind of
some.
making it smooth in.
Well, that's the easy part, making the blend. Let's take a look. We'll see some of them here. They're near the end. Okay, here's one here. Okay, and that piece of foam, I did not take it off. I built everything on there. I took it down. This is the one that Wayne Wesolowski built in O scale. I took it down to the judging in Tucson, and Wayne met me at the door. But everything blended in very nicely. It's on the layout now, just as you see it. And again, it's very easy. It's lightweight. You can pick, if you don't put a little dab of glue under it, won't hurt a thing. The stuff lays flat. I made a mistake on a couple of these, making them on a piece of gluing them down. Don't do that. I don't do it anymore. Here's another one. Okay. Again, I just like to be able to create the scene, and then I just put it in place. I could walk around. I knew where I was going to put it, so I built the foam, the pink foam ahead of time, carved it in place, and made some outlines, and then laid all the structures pretty much in place and put it down.
So are you saying that when this goes on to the layout,
it's that
you don't glue it on the layout?
I would not. You might want to take some double-sided tape if you feel don't want it to move.
But then how do you blend into the
well, it so happens along this edge is where the track is. So a little bit of ballast and that just disappears. Okay. On the other side, yeah, there might be some, ground up newspaper sticking in there a little bit here and there. But
so there might be a little bit of gluing on the edge, but that's just for the scene.
That's on the edge. Yes. Or you'll take, the trees, the ground foam, and put ground foam around it, and that makes it disappear. And then, you can't see it, and you can just pick it right up.
What about tracks that are on, like that one before?
Yes.
How do you connect to that track?
Very carefully. Yeah, that wasn't hard. That was easy.
So do you actually put a bigger piece of foam on the layout in that whole area and then carve out the base?
Nope.
Do you just carve out a base and put it on and then figure out how to blend it?
In this particular, and most of the time, it might be sitting on a piece of plywood as the base, so that keeps it flat.
But I meant its surrounding area, because you have to be able to drop it into place or remove it.
Right.
Like a jigsaw puzzle piece.
Exactly. I take and build the cardboard pieces up close to the edge, and then ground foam, whatever, covers the rest of it up. And I won't say that I can lift all of them out, but I can lift quite a few of them out, Some I got a little crazy with glue once upon a time, and I shouldn't have done that. But if you want to take it to a meet for a contest, putting it on a piece of foam is not, that one's on just a square piece of foam. That one did not go on the layout. The buildings, I took the buildings off. That's just on a styrene. This one is on foam. And that's a big piece, because it's not only this building, but it's also a junkyard. Over here behind the tree is a junkyard. And speaking of trees, I have two types of trees. I have pine trees and I have deciduous trees. Years ago, there was a guy at the train show selling sage. And he came from Nevada, way up north, where it was apparently very, very dry. And he harvested the sage for years. I don't know how old he was when he died, but to me, it was very young. He was younger than I am, and I'm old. They just look magnificent. They really do. And the other one is pine trees. The pine trees I have in my rear order made by a guy here in town who you can see here a little bit. And he got out of the business. His wife said, "You're not going to make these anymore." but there's a guy on one of the forum that I'm on that bought hundreds of these trees from them. You know, and they're very nice. They make a nice Pacific Northwest tree. And the sage, you can use them all kinds of places. I have bits and pieces of them, bits and pieces of sage underneath in a box under the bench. And the other material that I have used oodles of is this green foam. Oh my God. I can't tell you how many bags I've used. Lots of Elmer's glue, lots of foam, put it down, paint the base first, paint it brown so you don't see it, you know. And these rocks, they're made by Cripple Bush. I had a guy here in town, he's making a layout, 2-layer layout. The room is 3,000 square feet. And he's printing all of his buildings with these plastic printers. And he's doing a marvelous job, marvelous job. So he was over here and he starts asking me about the rocks. And I said, well, this is where I get them. I said, he'll probably make it. If you find a rock, he'll make them for you, you know? And they're very, very nice. And again, with scissors, hot glue, some paint, or some acrylic paint, you're done, you know? So rocks can go fast. They really can, you know, if you're into putting rocks down, and I am.
What was the name of that company?
Cripple Bush. Boy, I picked that name out fast out of the hat, didn't I? So I see all of you guys sitting here. I don't see. Oh, see, you know, one guy's got some train stuff behind him here. Let's see. Lou's got himself a bloody diesel behind him. It looks like he's going to get run over. I like those. How many? All of you guys have layouts?
Yeah, I do.
Good.
Most of us have something or something started.
Okay. Now you're either north or south of Salt Lake, essentially, right?
There's a few of us in Salt Lake too.
Oh, okay. All right. So you know what's his name now? Toy Man.
Yes.
Dale. Yeah.
Yep.
He's a character. We had him for a guest speaker down here one year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember him telling us about that.
Yeah. And he came over here. You ask Dale about my railroad and he'll say there's one thing that I'm known for. And actually a lot of people do tell me that too. One of the items in
by 20 volt
is the birds from the Bob Van Gelder kit. And so I have a lot of buildings with the cast metal birds that are painted like pigeons. And I had one, let's see if I can find the kit real quickly. Back a little ways here. Well, one of the guys on this forum that I'm on called me, here it is here. This one here, Delabar Woolens. I was posting that up on as my build for on the forum, and one of the guys says, Frank, great looking birds, but you're missing something. Anybody want to take a guess what's missing?
Droppings.
That's it. You got it. Give that man a cigar. And he didn't use that word, unfortunately. He used BS. Okay, and so I go back and I'm painting bird poop everywhere. Politely, I mean, it's nicely. It's not overwhelming, you know, like some things. But I mean, on billboards, I've got them on billboards and everything else. And I'll tell you, they make a nice effect on a layout. They really do. You know, it's hard to find interesting things to add from a scenic point of view. You know, because I've been doing this hobby for a long time. I just turned 80, and I've been in this hobby since I was about 4. Not to the degree I'm in it now, trust me. But yeah, I have my original Lionel sitting back here on a display case. My next door neighbor was an artist, and he painted the Pennsylvania Railroad calendars for many years. And I had the Erie Railroad was 4 houses away. So as a young kid of 4 or 5 or 6, when you heard the train whistle, you ran like hell to watch the train go by. And that was a steam engine, not a diesel. It was a steam engine, you know, and you sat there and you sucked in some soot and had a wonderful time. We didn't have a thing called television. We had no thing called a phone. And trying to replicate a little bit in detail, that's an interesting part, you know, the signs, you try to find period signs and so forth. I got Buster Brown shoe sitting in that one. And again, birds. And then Dario Lodonda from Canada took over the casting business from Bob Van Gelder. So Dario sends me an email. He said, "Did I promise you some birds? You think I'm going to say no?" Yeah, sure, Dario, send me some birds. Send me some birds. So he sent me, I don't know, probably 15 packages of birds, along with a whole bunch of other stuff. And I don't know, he probably sent me $300 worth of castings for free. And, you know, when I have time, I get into casting mode where I start cleaning and painting and putting them in place, you know. This is almost 30 years what you're looking at. And the city is the area that I'm knee deep in at this point. And every once in a while, my wife gets pissed at me, pardon my French. I get the downsizing mode drill, you know. Well, we're going to have to downsize. You're not keeping up this or that or whatever. And as you all know, if you have a house, it's the money pit. You're always doing something to it. And, you know, we do that. I've been doing that a lot of recent too, you know.
Frank, what's the deepest reach on this layout? What we're looking at
much
here.
Much longer than my arm.
So it's what we're looking at here is 5 or 6 feet.
Oh yeah, at least. I have a tape measure. Hang on a second. I'll tell you exactly what it is without breaking anything. Oh yeah, that's 6.
He has one of those creepers, you know, that you can reach over the layout.
Yeah.
About 8 feet.
8 feet. Wow. The creeper, I didn't know the creeper would extend that far.
It doesn't. It doesn't. But again, half of that is I can reach, you know, into like so. So, and I didn't have a creeper when I built all of this. So that's why that area is a module. That's a module. That's a module. Once I had the track done, which I could stand on anything, I just took these modules in place, and I didn't have a lot of scenery to have to do extra. You know what I mean? That's where the foam piece on the building on the foam comes in handy, because you basically have scenic. So the only thing you have to do is the extremities of it. And that makes it really nice. So it's sort of build in place and then drop in place.
You said sometimes you use a styrene base.
Oh yeah, some of them, like where the cities are, the station is actually sitting on a big piece of styrene. And there's a, let's see, do I have the one in Little Falls?
Use like 60 thou or 100 thou?
Yeah, 60, something, you know, real thin has a tendency to buckle a little bit. And I've had some issues with that.
Well, I'm in N scale, so it buckles.
Oh, yes, okay.
Buckles less.
Yeah, you have good eyes.
I have magnifiers.
I tried it for a while and it was just too tiny, but I've had HO since, oh my God. And now what I have never seen from anybody is their storage, because we all have this. I know we do. Where do you store all of your stuff that you haven't built, either buildings or more so importantly is cars and engines? Where do you put your cars and engines and stuff? I don't know whether you can see this. Let me get out of the way here and I'll move the camera. I can't see what it's looking at. I think I showed this to Jim.
Yeah, I remember.
Okay, can you see those gray cabinets?
Yes.
That's where I keep the good shit. They are old drafting files that they were going to throw away at work years ago. And I said, I'll take a couple. And so they delivered them to me for free and gave them to me for free. So I have one. Let's see how can I do this? This is show and tell, but it's fun, guys. I got to see where all these wires go. I don't need the printer wire on. I'm going to see if I can move the screen with me. Oh, I can. Okay, good. Now, can you see the?
Yes.
Okay, here we are. I'm looking up here at the top. Okay, and this thing wants to rotate on me. I don't know how to lock that puppy. Okay, so this is my Charlie horse. Told you I'm getting too old for this shit. I'm going to move this to the floor if I can, because it wants. Let me move it to this chair. This one doesn't rotate as badly. Okay, what'd I do?
That's good.
Okay, all right. Okay. Screen sharing has stopped.
Yeah, that's good. You want, because we're
Okay,
seeing
okay.
you now. Yeah, we see you now.
Okay, good. All right. I'm going to hit okay. Very good. There we go. All right. Sounds fun too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This is everybody's dream. These are little plastic cases, and I have several, of truck components, people, you name it. I have a bunch. There's 3 sections for birds. These are the ones, the sprues, the painted sprues, and the cut birds. So if I get in the mood to put birds in, I grab that vial, my tweezers and some glue, and I go put birds in. There's gears, there's toilet, there's, let's see what's in there. That's toilets, barrels. You can't have enough barrels. Okay. Now, sometimes they're raw. See, when you buy a South River kit, and I don't know how many of you have ever seen this, that's one of the items you get in there. You get all these components, all these castings. And that's why the kit costs what it does. Unfortunately, Bob retired, but these were running $250 to $3 and a quarter, something like that. And he only made it in HO scale, unfortunately. But very, very fine castings. Some of the other guys that have done and George Celios did fine castings. All the rest of the people that have done castings, not so good. Chimneys, again, if you're into scratch building, you can't have enough of some of these things. Here's pallets, paper rolls, radiators, chimneys, all kinds of chimneys, and then crates. When I built Yakima apples and vehicles, I like, there's a truck that I like, and I cannot find very many of them. So if you ever see one, let me know. This is an Ulrich truck with a cab over engine. It's a Ford cab over engine. You don't find it very much, but I keep looking because I want to do a truck depot. And steamrollers, okay? How many guys remember this model? It was a steamroller and the actual front moved.
Wow.
Okay. I ran across a couple of those the other day. Not ran over, I purchased a couple. So I have these drawers, and then if I open this drawer, can you see the inside? No, you cannot. All right.
We can. Yeah, we can see it's full of cars.
Yes, it is. Yes. Well, I was director of sales and marketing for a company years ago before I retired, and I traveled all over the world, but mostly it was in the US. And if I got my job done early in the day, guess where I went? I found a hobby shop. All right. And I'd say, hey, do you happen to have any cars, like a boxcar, that happens to be indigenous to a railroad in your area? And for years, they never said that. They never said anything. It was all stuff from Athern, and it was, Santa Fe, Southern Pacific, whatever. Then all of a sudden, Bev Bell comes into the picture, and they'd screen anything on a car, So I have a few, and that's only a few. Then you get into wood and paper and metal. You can't have enough of those when you're building, you know? And so you get into that. What else have I got?
So that's a drafting file cabinet?
Yes, if you can find them, buy it. They probably aren't going to be cheap. But you know, you get 5 drawers and they're, I don't know. Let's see what size they are.
About 4 feet.
Yeah, they're good size. They really are. And you can put an awful lot of stuff in them. Trust me. I know, because mine are all full. That is 51 inches, and the depth is, goes way back, 3 feet deep. So you can put a lot of stuff in here. And then you'll see, for instance, if I move the camera a little bit here, below the table, I built some shelving for post-war line. I have pre-war and post-war Lionel, American Flyer that I've picked up over the years here and there, you know. If you get into this hobby, you can really get into it.
Anyone else with more questions?
Well, you all have an open invitation. If you ever get down to Arizona, give me a call.
That's what I was just going to say. What are your visiting hours?
Anytime.
I think I was there from what about 9 to 11?
Yeah.
PM?
Yeah. I have people that walk by out front and say, "I've heard you have some model trains," and an hour or two later they leave. You know.
Yeah.
Okay, not a problem. I do watch it. I mean,
Frank,
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm a little careful sometimes, you know. There was a guy back east that used to have his railroad open at Christmas time. And he kept adding onto his house, adding onto his railroad, so forth. And some woman came in, tripped, sued him. So he said, nuts to that. Well, he did open up a building. If you're ever in New Jersey, it's on Route 22, and I can't remember the name of the man or the thing, but he has this huge railroad. It's multiple levels, multiple floors. You can walk all the way around it. Unfortunately, it's all Tyco. You know, I'm not hoping I'm not offending anybody, but you know, it's nicely done. You know, but now he's got the insurance to cover himself, so if anybody falls, he's not going to get sued and lose everything. You know, so you have to be a little careful in that respect. You know, and security is always an issue. You know, this building is separate from the house, but there's a very good security system in here. Trust me. And it's not called Smith & Wesson,
Yeah.
although it's a possibility.
Do you have any problem with people touching things or moving things?
Oh, do you? Occasionally. And most of them, I warn them when they walk through the door, keep your hands in your pocket. Ask a question, that's polite, but don't touch. Well, my wife has a client, my wife still works, she's a financial planner. My wife has a client that came over one day, and she has trouble walking and a little bit of dexterity issues and so forth. Well, in Little Falls, where I have that nice long bridge, she went like this. I go, oh God. So I've had to rebuild part of the fencing across the bridge, and it wasn't bad, you know. And you don't say anything. I don't say, you know, I don't want to say expletives. I just leave it alone. You know, it happens. And I mean, I've done the same thing myself, but I have lightning rods on some of my structures, even up to the close ones. Okay. And I mean, that's 10 thousandths piece of brass. You barely see it. And every once in a while you'll see one of those. And my wife does the same thing. My wife is terrible. Okay. she's always, look at that, see that over there? You know, I'm going, put your hands in your pocket, sweetie. You know, I mean, she's very excited about it. She loves the hobby, keeps me out of trouble, you know, and so forth. But, you know, and we both are the same way. I mean, it's just a fun hobby to be in, you know, and she just wants to show, look at that, look at the person over there, look at that. And, you know, the hands are going, you know, women talk with their hands, and she does. And so that's anyhow. But hey, as long as she keeps painting people, I mean, I don't know whether anybody spotted this out of the corner of their eye. Let's see. This is what it's all worth, guys. You find a wife that wants to paint people, okay? And she'll sit over there hour after hour painting these little stinky people. In fact, at two of our regional conventions, she did a clinic, and she said, "Oh, I'll get all kinds of women in the clinic." Wrong. Out of the 30 guys in the clinic, she had one, well, out of 30 people, she had one woman. And some of the guys, you know, I've known for years and years and years, and they're always, in fact, probably some of you guys know one of the individuals. I won't mention his name. No, I will. Bruce Petraka. Well, Bruce, he had a place up in Utah as well. But anyhow, he started painting people with her, you know, and she puts them on long. I don't have, oh yes, I do. Here, hang on a second. I bought her some very long straight pins, because this is the easiest way to paint a person. Put them on a long pin, okay? Huh. You can rotate it around. It's a little super glue, and a good sharp blade will pop that off there real fast, and you won't damage anything, okay? And so I paint people. I put them on the pins, and she paints them. Bruce was driving home with his pin person, with it out the window, trying to get it to dry. I don't know whether that person made it or not, to be honest with you, but he tells a good story, you know.
Yeah, we all know Bruce.
Yeah. Leave it there. Yeah. Okay. But anyhow.
Lou, did you have another question you were going to ask?
Yeah, don't be bashful, guys.
Yeah, I had a chance. I used to live down in Phoenix, had a chance to visit your layout at one of the division meetings, or may have been the region, I can't remember. It's an outstanding layout. And I remember your wife's
talking about people
clinic.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been a while. Yeah.
That was probably 2019. No,
it was the one before that.
15.
Yeah.
Because somewhere's here I have a book. If you showed up, you signed my book. As another thing to do, if you have people coming to your layout, I put together a book, my sketch, and in here people put in their name, address, phone number, and interestingly enough, here's a guy that was here. This was in 19, and he sent me a nice letter back with photographs that he took of the railroad and thanking. That's the only one I've ever had like that, to be honest with you. Okay. And so I saved it. And this guy must work for Disney, my guess. But over the years, I've had them from Australia, New Zealand, Germany, you name it, you know, and that's kind of nice to have a little book on it, you know. And there was a guy here at the last convention. He and his wife from Las Vegas. And we had a modeler up in Flagstaff that was prolific in scratch building, and they were beautiful, really were. And he was getting up in years, and he finally gave them to the NMRA club up there, and he said, I'd like this to be, you know, given to the NMRA to generate some funds. And so the guys up there didn't know what to do with it, so they sent it down here, and one of the guys from here was up there and brought it back in his van, and there was a boatload of boxes, and so we had to go through every model and clean it up because there was a lot of dust. It had been sitting at the fairgrounds up there for years, And so we cleaned them all up. We had one which was about 3 feet long, must have been 15, 20 buildings, a lot of people on it. And we put it in the auction, and he bought it for, I don't know, a pretty good sized amount of money. The next day he came to our swap meet, and I had 4 tables full of them. And he kept saying, I want this one, I want this one, I want this one, I want this one. And he filled a 8-foot table full of models. And he bought them all. God bless him. He lived in Las Vegas. And I said, I got to ask you, what are you driving? Anybody want to take a guess? A Volkswagen Bug. And I'm going, how the hell are you going to get all that stuff at home? And he did. He did. I talked to his wife a couple days later, and he got it all home. Oh, I'm looking at the electronic doorbell. I know the wife's home, so I'm not worried about it.
Oh.
Doesn't show anything anybody. Oh, yes, it does. And the door is open, so. Oh, the door's not open. I don't know who that person is. Oh, it is open. Somebody. Oh, I know who it is. Never mind. I know who it is. Yeah. It's fun. I like I said, I just turned 80. It's a fun hobby. Enjoy it. You know, you never know when somebody's going to come and take you away, mentally, physically, or whatever. You know, just have fun. You know. Now, how are you guys seeing people dropping out? We've lost about 40 people this past year. COVID, to some degree, some because of the guys are saying that it's gotten too expensive because they just raise it again, the cost of membership. Are you seeing anybody dropping out? I know that's a leading question.
Yeah, I don't know what other people are thinking. I think I mentioned to you last night that there was a few.
Yeah.
But we're pretty constant.
Good. Yeah.
We've got a large division, but with not a lot of people participating at any given time.
Right. That's you're going to find that. I mean, we've been as high as 400. We're down. You know, but they're spread. I mean,
yeah.
You got Flagstaff, you got Tucson, you got Yuma. Well, you know, Yuma is a 3-hour drive no matter where you live.
Yeah.
You know, and so you don't see those guys very often. And there was one guy that was the spokesperson, and the rest of them sort of followed along. And you know, it's hard to keep that momentum up. You know.
Yeah.
So.
And we've been keeping the momentum, as you're saying, through doing these meetings. And,
yes, I think it's a good idea.
And we're glad that you were willing to spend this time with us.
Oh, I'm pleased to do it. I mean, you know, it's fun to share ideas and, you know, and talk about it. I mean, you know, I get a lot of people from around Arizona that come by as well, you know, and so forth. But outside the country, outside the state, that's even more fun, you know.
Yeah.
So.
But are you guys having do you have another division or region meeting on the books yet?
In Arizona, that will be under that will be under my authorship. I retire in September.
Okay.
So the next guy's going to get it. And we tried to become our own region. I don't know whether you knew that or not.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I'm not impressed with the management within the NMRA. And I think I know why they declined from us doing it. Because Florida did it and got away with it. It's the only state that pulled it off. And now they're complaining they want to get back into the southern region. Okay. And it's the politics and some of the other stuff that the NMRA is pulling off, I don't agree with, to be honest with you. You know, no, you got to be 18 or older, no longer young people. Where the hell do you think I learned in this thing? I was 5 years old when I first got my first engine, for crying out loud, you know. Yeah. And you can't because Chester the molester was going to attack them. Bullshit, you know. That means everybody's going to have an attorney with you when you invite them into their house.
Yeah.
No, it's a crock, you know. It is, and it goes on and on and on. So I went through. I had about 100 members out of the almost 350, 360 members that were willing to say, let's change it. And they said, no can do. No, you know, financially we're in good shape, everything else, but they didn't want to do it. So, you know, it's a bit of a letdown. You know,
how often are you guys pre-COVID? How often do you meet? You 4 times a year?
Yes, and we haven't had one since last fall.
Okay.
I'm sorry, no, last spring. You know, it would have been last spring. And I talked to a lot of them. We don't do much in the Zoom because I haven't found anybody that's willing to take the responsibility to do the Zoom meeting. You know, and a lot of guys are not competent or don't want to do the Zoom. They want to be face to face. You know.
Yeah.
There's been a local VFW hall that has rented some space out to guys that want to sell some things, but it's mostly guys, sellers buying stuff from other sellers.
Yeah.
You know, we're seeing that as well. So.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions for Frank regarding his layout? Okay.
Like I say,
I would just like to say that you have a beautiful layout.
Thank you very much,
You've
George.
done an excellent job. Excellent job.
Well, you can only see so much. There is, look at if you ever get a chance, there is stuff in the NMRA, no, not in NMRA, in YouTube, that one from Stephen Colford from TCS. That gives you a little, as well. But the best thing is, come down, right, Jim?
Yeah.
You got to, any railroad you want to see in person, okay? I don't care. Pictures do somewhat of it, you know. Like I said, I was in Great Model Railroads, I was in the calendar, but seeing it in person, that's where you really, you know, see it and get a feeling for what's been done, you know.
Yeah, so if anyone's headed down that way a year from now, 6
Call
months,
me.
whenever,
Call me.
Let me know and I'll get you his number so you can get a hold of him.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you so much.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Always a pleasure. Always,
right.
And if I get that way, I'll call you guys.
Yeah.
You know.
That works too.
Oh, Cindy, where have you been?
Okay. All right. Thanks again, Frank. And
you're most welcome, and thank you. Appreciate it very much.
For this month.
Stay safe and have a great